Okay, picture this. It's a cold, dark night, February 17th, 1864. Out on the water, history is about to be made. A revolutionary new weapon, basically a ghost in the water, is closing in on its target. It's about to prove that the future of war is under the sea.
So, off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina, you've got the USS Housatonic. This thing is a beast, a huge Union warship, part of the blockade. And then, out of nowhere, a massive explosion just rips through its hull. The ship, this symbol of Northern naval power, is fatally wounded by an attacker it never even saw coming.
And that attacker? It was the H.L. Hunley, a Confederate submarine. In that one moment, it did something no other vessel in history had ever done before. This wasn't just a small victory. It was a total game changer, the very dawn of undersea warfare.
But here's the thing. After its incredible, history-making victory, the Hunley and its 8-man crew just disappeared, vanished into the night. It kicked off a mystery that would go unsolved for more than 100 years. So, what on earth really happened to the ghost sub and its crew?
To really get what the Hunley was all about, you have to understand the sheer desperation that brought it into being.
The Civil War is raging, right? And the Union's naval blockade is like a giant boa constrictor, just slowly squeezing the life out of the Confederacy, cutting off all their supplies. The South desperately needed a secret weapon, something totally radical that could punch a hole in that blockade. And this was their answer. The H.L. Hunley, which people at the time called the fishboat. I mean, for its day, it was an engineering marvel for sure. But as you can see from this diagram, it was also a seriously crude and claustrophobic machine.
So let's take a quick look. The Hunley's design was brutally simple. It was only about 40 feet long and less than 4 feet wide. That's barely wider than your shoulders. And its power source? Pure human muscle. Guys inside turning a hand-cranked propeller. And its weapon was basically a 135-pound bomb stuck on the end of a very long pole.
8. That's how many men it took to operate this thing. 8 souls, crammed inside a metal tube that was pretty much an iron coffin.
Just try to imagine that scene. You've got 7 men, hunched over in the dark, turning this one long crankshaft together just to move the sub forward. And then there's one commander peering through a tiny viewport, trying to navigate and steer. It had to be absolutely exhausting, brutal work.
But here's where the story gets even darker. Even before its final, famous mission, the Hunley had already earned a terrifying nickname, the Death Trap.
Not once, but twice it had sunk during what were supposed to be routine training exercises. The first time, in August 1863, 5 guys drowned. Then, just 2 months later, it went down again, and this time it killed all 8 men on board. That's a total of 13 men who died in the Hunley before it ever even saw a single day of combat.
And that second sinking was especially tragic because it killed the submarine's own inventor, Horace Lawson Hunley. He was so confident in his machine that he actually joined the crew for a test dive, and he ended up going down with his own ship.
Now you'd think that would be the end of it, right? But no. Despite its deadly past, the Confederacy dragged the sub up from the bottom once more. They were determined to make one last attempt to break that blockade.
And the target they chose, well, it was a true Goliath. You have the USS Housatonic, a 1,240-ton steam-powered warship with 12 huge cannons. And going up against it is the tiny, hand-cranked Hunley with its one bomb on a stick. I mean, the sheer guts of this mission is just staggering.
So, with Lieutenant George Dixon in command, the Hunley slips out into the harbor. It gets close to the Housatonic, pops up for a quick look to get its bearings, then dives back down and rams its torpedo right into the warship's wooden hull. The explosion was just catastrophic. The massive Housatonic went to the bottom of Charleston Harbor in less than 3 minutes. 3 minutes! The Hunley had actually done it. It had achieved the impossible.
And this is right where the mystery kicks into high gear. After the attack, people watching from the shore said they saw a signal light from the Hunley, the prearranged signal that meant mission accomplished, we're coming home. But they never showed up. They just vanished.
For 136 long years, the fate of the Hunley was one of the Civil War's greatest unsolved mysteries. That is, until the turn of a new millennium.
The mystery finally started to unravel in August of 2000,
After years and years of searching, the H.L. Hunley was found and raised from the ocean floor. And because it was buried in silt, it was perfectly preserved. It was like a time capsule, bridging that 136-year gap.
When archaeologists finally opened the hull, they found this incredibly eerie scene. The skeletons of all 8 crewmen were still at their battle stations. There were no broken bones, no signs of a struggle or any kind of panic. They hadn't tried to use the emergency escape systems. They hadn't even turned on the pumps to get water out. It's like they just stopped.
And science finally gave us the answer. The crew wasn't killed by a leak or some kind of second explosion inside the sub. Nope, they were killed by their own weapon. See, the torpedo went off only about 20 feet away, sending this massive, invisible pressure wave through the water. That shock wave passed right through the sub's thin iron hull and instantly destroyed the delicate tissues of the crew's lungs. They were all killed instantly, probably before they even knew what happened.
And that's the final tragic irony of this whole story. The very same blast that sealed their place in history was also the blast that took their lives. They became victims of the very success that made them legends.
The crew of the H.L. Hunley didn't just prove that submarine warfare was possible. Their deaths taught its first and most brutal lesson. The invisible shockwave from a weapon can be just as deadly to the attacker as the explosion is to the target. And that fatal discovery, understanding the physics of underwater blasts, would go on to shape submarine design for the next 100 years. It really makes you think about the price of innovation, doesn't it?